The stream is now live.
Mr. Chairman, we are live and recording. You may gavel in the meeting and ready.
Thank you. Good morning. The open meeting of the Federal Election Commission for May 1st, 2024 will come to order. Wish everyone a happy Law Day here in the United States. We have three items on our agenda today, three draft advisory opinions. The first of which is draft advisory opinion 2024-03 politicalmeetings.com LLC. This has been held over from a previous executive session. For the Office of General Counsel, we have Ms. Cheryl Helmsley and Mr. Bob Knopp, and we also have the requester here, Ms. Sue Rose, the CEO and founder of Political Meetings. Ms. Rose, if you don't mind coming up to the table up front in case there's any questions for you, we'd really appreciate it. And we've heard this before, but Ms. Helmsley, if you could indulge us and if we could get another presentation about the request, we would appreciate it.
I'd be happy to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Good morning. Politicalmeetings.com LLC or PM.com proposes to allow its subscribers to make small monthly contributions to candidates and national party committees via its web-based platform. Subscribers would then have access to non-public information about political meetings and events with the recipient committees, and PM.com would allow the committees at no charge to provide information, including links to fundraising sites and events outside of PM.com. We have three drafts this morning. All three drafts determine the proposed activities to be permissible. Drafts A and revised A in agenda documents 24-12-A and 24-12-A1 determine that the activities would not constitute contributions from PM.com and therefore Sue Rose as its sole proprietor to the participating committees. Revised draft A differs from draft A only in that it contains some technical edits and notes the requester's statement that it intends to convert at some point from an LLC to an LLP. Draft B differs from drafts A and revised A and is in agenda document 24-12-B. Determines that the activities would constitute contributions from PM.com and therefore Sue Rose as a sole proprietor to the participating committees. We did receive one comment on draft A. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're available for questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Helmsley. Colleagues, let me open it up again. Are there any questions for counsel for the requester, or excuse me, for the requester or for OGC? Commissioner Lindenbaum.
Thank you. And Ms. Rose, thank you for bearing with us and with all of the requests for extensions. I am sorry I'm not there in person to thank you while I deal with a sick kid at home. But we'd asked for this extension to try to find time to come to more of a consensus and have a consensus draft here. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. And I'm sorry, just sometimes that happens, but thank you for giving us that time to do it. For those that follow us, they'll know that sometimes those conversations don't happen among commissioners often enough, but that's something we've been working on here. So again, thank you for giving us that time.
Thank you, Commissioner Lindenbaum. Colleagues, any other questions, comments, points of discussion? Oh, Ms. Rose, is there anything you wanted to please go ahead?
I'm just available, if there are any questions, even after today's meeting. So, but thank you, no problem.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rose. Colleagues, maybe some appropriate motions then. Sure. Commissioner Dickerson.
I move the Commission's approval of agenda document number 24-12-A1, which is revised draft A.
Thank you very much. Is there any debate on Commissioner Dickerson's motion? Seeing none, all of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All of those opposed say no.
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 All right, that motion fails by a vote of 3-3. Myself, Commissioner Trainer, and Commissioner Dickerson in favor, Commissioner Broussard, the Vice Chair, and Commissioner Lindenbaum opposed. Any further motions? Commissioner Broussard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In draft advisory opinion 2403 politicalmeetings.com LLC, I move approval of agenda document number 24-12B, draft B.
Thank you. Any debate on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no.
No.
No. And that motion fails by a vote of 3-3. Commissioner Broussard, the Vice Chair, and Commissioner Lindenbaum in favor, myself, Commissioner Trainer, and Commissioner Dickerson opposed. So we'll turn it over to policy. We'll not be able to issue an opinion today, but policy will be able to issue a closeout letter in response to this. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Rose, for your time and your appearance here today. We're going to move on then to our next draft advisory opinion, which is draft advisory opinion 2024-04, Independence Blue Cross LLC Political Action Committee. We have Ms. Sarah Peck. Take your time to get settled up here at the table. We also have appearing virtually counsel for the requester, Mr. Riccardelli, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I mispronounce it, I apologize, and Mr. Rothblum. So appreciate your attendance here today. And Ms. Peck, whenever you're settled, if you could give us a presentation about this request, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Cooksey, and good morning, Commissioners. Agenda document 24-18-A is a draft response to an advisory opinion request submitted by Independence Blue Cross LLC Political Action Committee. The requester asks the Commission to find that it is not affiliated with the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association Political Action Committee, the separate segregated fund of the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association. After examining all the affiliation factors and the overall context of the relationship among the entities, the draft concludes that they are disaffiliated. The Commission received no comments on the draft, and I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, any questions for OGC or questions for counsel for the requester who are here? Let me just ask the most basic question to counsel of the requesters, which is we received no comments, I think, is that right? And so we only have one draft before us. Is there anything we should know, anything you'd like to say about the sole draft that's before us today before we consider voting on it?
No, Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity, but we have no comments either.
Thank you very much. Okay. Colleagues, maybe an appropriate motion. Commissioner Dickerson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In connection with draft advisory opinion 2024-04, I move the adoption of agenda document number 24-18-A, which is draft A.
Thank you. Colleagues, any debate on that motion? All right, seeing none, all of those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, and that motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Ms. Peck, for your assistance, and congratulations to the requesters. Moving right along, we're going to move to the third draft advisory opinion on our agenda today, draft advisory opinion 2024-05, Nevadans for Reproductive Freedom. We have Ms. Waldstreicher and Mr. Knopp from the Office of General Counsel, and we have counsel from the requester in person. Always appreciate in-person attendance when it avails itself. We have Mr. Reese and Mr. Peterson from the Elias Law Group. And Ms. Waldstreicher, whenever you are ready, if you could give us a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Agenda document 24-17-A is a draft response to an advisory opinion request submitted by Nevadans for Reproductive Freedom. The requester, which maintains a 501c4 organization and a state PAC, has filed a state constitutional initiative petition in Nevada and is in the process of collecting signatures needed to place the initiative on the 2024 general election ballot. NFRF plans to raise funds to support the initiative from sources and amounts that are prohibited under federal law. As part of its fundraising, NFRF plans to ask federal candidates and office holders to solicit funds that will be used for general support of the initiative or NFRF's overall mission. The request asks whether a federal candidate or office holder may solicit funds for NFRF without regard to amount limitations or source restrictions, both before and after the initiative qualifies for the 2024 general election ballot. The draft concludes that NFRF's proposed solicitations by candidates and office holders in support of the initiative are not in connection with any election for federal office or otherwise, and thus are not restricted by Section 30125E1A or B of the Act. Therefore, federal candidates and office holders may solicit funds for both NFRF entities, as described in the request, at any time without regard to the amount limitations or source prohibitions of the Act. We received one comment on the request from the Institute for Free Speech, and we received 2 comments on the draft from Campaign Legal Center and the National Republican Senatorial Committee. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Waldstreicher. Colleagues, let me open up for questions for OGC or questions for counsel for the requester. Commissioner Broussard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, gentlemen. I see it's the day of the blue tie. Coordination, looking for coordination at work. So I have a few questions. And so the first one that I'm going to ask you is the request states on page 1 that Nevadans for Reproductive Freedom maintains 2 entities, a Nevada registered committee for political action PAC advocating passage and a 501c4, also called by the same name. Some additional questions were sent to you yesterday, and I thank you for timely getting back to us with those answers. But in your email response yesterday, you state that the PAC is the state registered account of the 501c4 that is identified as NFRF-C4 in the request. So, and that they share the same tax identification number as the C4. Can you clarify for us whether for IRS purposes, the PAC and the C4 are separate entities? And if they are, what is the PAC's federal status, tax status?
Thank you, Commissioner Broussard, and I just want to say it's a pleasure to be here before you today and see so many friendly faces. I'll reserve judgment. I'm not sure if it's friendly yet, but it's nice to be here. To answer your question, Commissioner Broussard, they're one entity and the state PAC is a C4.
Thank you.
Is that the only, oh, colleagues, anything else? Otherwise, please go on.
Oh, it's the Broussard show. Let's keep going then. In your responses, you state that the plan is to use the funds solicited by federal candidates to support efforts to advocate for a state ballot. What kind of activities is NFRF proposing to engage in using the funds solicited by the federal candidates or office holders?
I think the answer to that question, Commissioner Broussard, is that it's just general persuasion. It's a ballot measure. They're advocating for the ballot measure. So right now they're doing petitioning to qualify the initiative for the ballot. So in general, they're just doing sort of persuasion right now. So I don't know if we have, and this is, I think, part of the larger conversation here about earmarking and all of that. But right now, they're just going to, qualify the ballot, the initiative for the ballot, and then do advertising and things like that to persuade voters to vote for the position once it qualifies for the ballot.
Thank you. So let's say you're successful for getting the initiative on the ballot. Do you plan to encourage potential voters to register to vote?
Right now, I think we sort of answered that to some degree in our response last night. And right now, we have no plans to use funds that were solicited by federal candidates for that activity.
Any plans to encourage voters to vote for the initiative?
Not as of current plans, but funds solicited by federal candidates.
Do you plan to let potential voters know about the polling places?
No, not to my knowledge right now with funds solicited by federal candidates, no.
Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, any other questions for OGC, questions for counsel for the requester? Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
I wanted to open it up.
I
to my
appreciate that.
colleagues.
Please go on, Commissioner Broussard. You're on a
Okay.
roll.
There's a safe harbor that's provided in the statute, actually in the regulation. And inside of your request, you make mention of the potential of later providing that. What is the intention or why the reason for the later as opposed to not upfront providing a copy of that?
And when you say provide a copy, you mean the copy of the certification that their
Yes.
primary purpose?
Thank you.
Yes, I think the answer to that is, we're waiting to see what the commission concludes about whether a ballot initiative is in connection with an election. And if the commission concludes that it's not, then that means that we can provide federal candidates with the reassurance through that safe harbor that our clients' activities, the true purpose is not for federal election.
And if the commission concludes, if the commission concludes that it's not in connection, you intend to follow through with that, providing that certification.
Yeah, I think, yes, Commissioner Broussard, we said that also in our request.
Thank you.
Colleagues, anything else? Any other questions? I guess let me ask a question about a sort of higher level question about this issue of the federal election activity and 301025E1 A. I was puzzling over this last night, which is, there's this more precedent question of
to what extent does the commission have jurisdiction over ballot initiatives at all? Given the definitions of election in both the statute and in the regs, to what, there are, some interesting uses of the term election in the definitions of federal election activity, but, the overarching definition section of elections really doesn't refer to ballot initiatives at all. Should that, to what role should that play in some of these more nuanced questions or more detailed questions about federal election activity? Is it easier to simply say, look, we don't have jurisdiction over this in the first instance, and so many of these things are sort of off base to consider how they apply to committees or C4s like your clients?
I think draft A starts the analysis with respect to the state PAC by asking that threshold question. And I agree, Commissioner Chair Clancy, that it is a threshold question, and the commission has consistently said that ballot measures are generally outside of its purview. As recently as a couple of years ago in the foreign national context, the commission once again said that. And they made clear at that time that nothing in BICRA changed that understanding, that there was always a distinction that was made between ballot initiatives and candidate-based elections. So yes, I think that it is definitely a threshold question, and it does sort of foreclose, I think, a lot of these other questions about federal election activity. That being said, Commissioner, I think the draft also mentions in footnote 16, sort of touches on that issue that you're sort of raising there. And, for our purposes here, our client is not established, maintained, financed, or controlled by a federal candidate or office holder. So, largely some of these questions resolve just based on that, because it's just not a factor in our analysis here.
Thank you. Colleagues, other questions, points of discussion? Okay, Commissioner Broussard, please.
This might be a little bit early, but I think some of the answers that we've received today have helped me reach a place where I'm settled on that, but I'd like to have those incorporated into the draft. So I think we have a deadline of Tuesday. I don't see any reason personally, unless my colleagues are looking at me very sternly, that we cannot get this included and get this resolved in the appropriate time period. I don't know where the votes lie on that. I'm just saying from the perspective of where my comfort level would be.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Waltstreicher, or excuse me, Commissioner Waltstreicher, if only.
thanks.
Ms. Waltstreicher.
I just wanted to clarify as to the deadline. Right now, the deadline for this AO to be issued is this Friday. In case that makes a difference to anybody and what happens next.
Can OGC remind me, I guess, about sort of the answers that were submitted last night have been circulated as a supplement as part of the request. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. I'm not sure if they have made it onto the website or not, but they're in the process, and I did circulate it to all the commissioners last night.
Great, thank you very much. For my part, given that it is now part of the record and part of the supplement, part of the request, and the advisory opinion is premised on the full facts presented as part of the request, my preference would be to vote today on the draft that's before us. Colleagues, anyone else? Points of discussion, questions for OGC? Commissioner Lindenbaum.
I'm also comfortable voting with this draft, but I think, with Commissioner Broussard's proposal is completely fine with me as well. I think we could quickly incorporate it and send this around for a tally vote. Today's Wednesday, right? So we could get this out, 24-hour tally done.
Thank you, Commissioner Lindenbaum. I will say, let me add to that more of the reasoning, which is that I think as we've seen recently, expectations of finding compromised drafts are often not matched by reality. And I am concerned about the prospect of putting ourselves in a pickle or in a very tight timeline, further finagling language and things like that. And that is the nature of my concern. And I'm comfortable with the draft and with the record before us, and that's why I would prefer to vote today. Obviously, if there aren't sufficient votes for that, then we still have time to do more. But the other reason, frankly, is that this is the draft that was published a week ago, that the public has had a chance to look at, that the Council for the Requesters has had a chance to review and answer questions on. And when it avails itself, my personal preference is to not publish and approve drafts that the public has never had a chance to see, if we can avoid that. But again, I respect my colleagues' views differ from mine. Commissioner Broussard, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for those words. I will say that I take the opportunity to review all comments that come in, and the comments came in late, and it gave me a moment of pause. And I appreciate council taking the time to stop, drop, and do whatever you're doing and give me the answers and answer them today. That is what I needed to reach a level of comfort, and I think the draft would be better, at least for my vote, if it included those facts. But it looks like I don't know where the votes lie. I think you're close. So if you get it, great. You might not. Well, let me tell you this. I intend to abstain. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, any other points of discussion? Maybe some inappropriate motion? Commissioner Lindenbaum.
I haven't made a motion in a while, so bear with me on this one. In advisory opinion 2024-05, Nevadans for Reproductive Freedom, I move approval of agenda document number 24-17-A, which is draft A.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, any debate on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Any abstentions? Commissioner Broussard? That motion passes by a vote of 4-1. Myself, Commissioner Lindenbaum, Commissioner Trainer, Commissioner Dickerson in favor, the Vice Chair opposed, and Commissioner Broussard abstaining. Thank you very much to OGC. Thank you very much to Council for the requesters. I'm now going to turn to the Vice Chair for a moment of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, I was surprisingly not ready for that, but thank you. I wish to note the passing of an important member of the FEC family. Former FEC General Counsel Tommy Duncan passed away last week. Tommy served here first as an Associate General Counsel and then as General Counsel from 2004 to 2010. Tommy was wise, kind, warm, unflappable, soft-spoken yet steely, an exemplary leader, a dedicated and respected public servant with an infectious smile. She left the FEC to become the panel executive for the United States Judicial Panel on Multi-District Litigation, where she served with distinction for 14 years. People like Tommy seek no glory and fly below the radar, but exemplify the best of public service. She was a colleague and a friend, and we will miss her. May her memory be a blessing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Weintraub. Very much appreciate that acknowledgement. With that, that exhausts our substantive agenda for today. So let me turn to Madam Acting Staff Director. Are there any management or administrative matters for consideration today?
Mr. Chairman, there are no such matters.
Thank you so much. This open meeting stands adjourned.